What's up, guys? Welcome to the Slap Bump Roll podcast. I'm sitting here with the man, Kroyler Gracie. Was that a successful introduction, sir?
That was, and you said my name really, really well.
Well, I mean, in my travels, you meet a real life Brazilian guy, not just people impersonating it. Like, because I'm sure you're tired of people going porra and
Oh,
kai.
absolutely, yeah.
It's the only words we know. So, like, it's always an impersonation. And I'm sure, like, you guys are sick of it.
But that's all right. I get why people do that. They're trying to like relate and become part of the culture and stuff. So, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, after a while, if it's especially bad when you get like a white belt that just repeats it over and over. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my God.
It's like, calm down, man. Calm down.
They love the oofs after everything.
Absolutely. Right.
Oh my goodness. So like when I talked to my friends about like having you on, it was like, oh, who's is he Hickson's son? Is he Hoyce's son? It's
Right.
You're like everybody wants the men. You're actually related through your mom, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. My mom is Helio Gracie's oldest daughter.
Nice.
Yeah.
So like Elio, so like you studied right in Brazil, like right under the learning tree. Like, is there any
Absolutely.
differences from like American teachers and like a Gracie?
Oh man, that's tough. That's really tough. That's a really solid question. Um, I think like on a personal level for me, I put a lot of pressure on myself that maybe never really existed. I don't think I was ever pressured by the family. I think I felt the pressure and it was mostly because of me. Like I put it on myself. I thought I had to represent. Now as far as like teaching styles, I think, um, I think, I think in America, at least the first two generations of teachers, of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teachers, emulated a lot of how Brazilians taught. And let me go back. There's a cultural difference, right? Brazil's very relaxed, very laid back. They're happy people. They're loud people, very festive, which is the reason why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is so informal in comparison to any other martial art. America, on the other hand, is not that way, right? Generally speaking, Americans tend to be more structured. There's, an 8 to 5, you work shifts, you do your time, you play and you sleep. Everything's regulated. The school schedules are very strict. People have a plan, you go to school, high school, college, or work, and so on. And I think the first two generations of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teachers that were American, right? And we're emulating the Brazilian culture. And I think it wasn't until the third generation, which I would say the third generation would probably be around the 2000s, was when we saw a real big difference between Brazilians and Americans. Because, yeah, I don't think that the Americans were, the third generation was no longer trying to emulate Brazilian culture, how they teach, so to speak.
I see. So when you left your grandpa's school, Elio Gracie, and you started training under Luis Filho, like how did that come about? Like
Luis Filho is my dad. He married my mom. He married her in hopes to like learn the family secrets. And then there were no secrets. The secret was you just train. You train all the time. You train since you're born. Obviously, their relationship didn't work out. I actually didn't meet him until I was like a lot older. She left him when I had just turned 1, so like I had no memories of him. And training with him was a little different. He had a lot of emphasis on MMA. He was one of the first few Vale Tudo guys in the northeast of Brazil. So training with him, there was a big shift. It went from self-defense and grappling to more of an MMA style. And you know, after training with him, like I said, I was with him for maybe 5 years. You know, from like 11 to 14, 11 to 15, so maybe 4 years.
Right, right.
And you know, I picked up a lot of things. You know, like you kind of pick up a part of the culture and part of the learning style, the teaching style, the techniques from any school that you visit, especially if you stay there for so long. Um, yes. So you know, I learned what I could, and I'm a big traveler. And as soon as I could travel and visit other schools, I did.
Right, right. So it's like traveling and visiting other schools. Is the Creonte philosophy around in
Oh,
Brazil? Or...
yeah, man, you're getting all the real questions. So you know, I don't the Creonte philosophy has been, I think, romanticized um, over the years. I think it's become this thing that like you have to be everybody's ride or die forever, or you're like this Judas, you know, and you can't be
Right,
trusted, and you must be like blacklisted. And I don't know if that's quite the case, right? I think that there's a difference between training at different schools and betraying your own school. And I think that's where the the difference lies. So for me, I have, to my knowledge, I have zero enemies in the jiu-jitsu community. You know, I have zero people that dislike me. You know, I have people that don't know me, but I don't think I have anybody that flat out doesn't like me. You know,
all right.
and I think that's because I'm respectful. You know, so like once I'm done training with somebody, or you know, if I visit their school, I try to be very respectful. You know, I try to, you know, not be that guy that, you know, that's visiting. You know what I mean? Um, and I think as long as I leave on good terms, I don't think there's a problem of cross training or anything like that. I think it's different if you train under your instructor forever, you get your black belt, and then you open a school like 2 blocks down from him. That's a different issue, you know.
Right, right, right.
Versus, you know, hey, I'm gonna visit my friends in California. Can I go train there? Like that shouldn't be a problem, you know.
Like I think America just grabbed it and like we ate that up because we're so tribalistic. Like our school's better than your school and button heads
Absolutely.
and like you hear somebody jumping over here, going over there. It's like, oh, Creonte, you traded on us, you did this, you did that. And like and I find that
Yeah.
in the American jiu-jitsu scene, like you'll take a little discussion that the Gracies had and it'll blow up into this thing over here. Like, and it's like,
Right.
what do you think it is?
It's like they weren't writing the Bible, you know what I mean? Like you know, this, I think you're absolutely right. I think you know, so like the term creonche started like back in this 50s, 60s, 70s because there were a lot of guys that were training primarily under the Gracies, but also under other accomplished, you know, schools, and they would they would leave, and you know, people like to brag. And I think one of the cardinal rules of jiu-jitsu is you don't talk about training. You know what I mean? Like if you know, you don't hear, like, we know that, as an example, we know that Gordon Ryan trains with Craig Jones, right? Like we know, but they're not part of the same team. And as much as they train together, they don't necessarily talk about who's catching who with what and the weaknesses. You know, they're not like bragging about each other or anything like that, or about tapping each other. So I think that's like a super cardinal rule. You come in, you train, you don't talk about how it went, you don't talk about who tapped who, you just do your thing. um, and I think back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when people would develop a very big ego over time, they would start bragging. And I think they would brag enough that when you have crowds going, oh, did you really submit him in training? Like it was one of those, like, you got to put up or shut up, you know? And then you would find yourself challenging like your professor, you know what I mean, like,
Oh, jeez.
or your teammates, you know what I mean, like, and that's a serious problem, you know.
Right.
I mean, we saw it might happen to my grandfather, you know. It's happened pretty much, you know. I mean, there's, I can give you 5 or 6 examples off the top of my head of well-established professors that had students challenge them because of, you know, people saying, you haven't really caught your teacher yet, you know. And then people's heads just blows up.
Right, right. I mean, like I couldn't imagine like going to war with my instructor, you know, like I got my black belt under Noel Smith here in Baltimore. And it's and I couldn't imagine like going at him. Like if I'm rolling with him, I'm trying to learn something. Like
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the culture, just culture is changing to that, right? To people are realizing that if you play more, if you have more fun, you learn and you improve more. But up until 15, 20 years ago, the attitude was we're just going to beat the shit out of each other and see if we can, you know, see who's the top guy.
right, right.
um, but if you look historically, if you look, all those people that fought, that trained like that and fought like that, competed like that, they're all broken now, you
Right.
know. And I think culturally we're learning from it. We're learning that, hey, you know, these guys that were like enemies to the death are now best friends. You know what I mean? Like, we see it all the time,
All the time.
and they talk and they have dinner, and why can't we do that now? Get better together now and not be all broken like them later. You know, I think it's shifting to that. But man, I'll tell you, imagine this. So like, I haven't met your professor, and this is the first time I'm meeting you, but imagine like, I don't need to know, right? It's a cardinal rule. Don't ask, don't tell, right? But I don't know how the roles between you and your professor go. It doesn't matter to me, right? I don't know who he is, but you know how they go. Now imagine if you and I were, I don't know, in a bar or in a restaurant, and there's no cameras, there's no phones, there's no recordings of anything, and you and I are, you know, talking, and you say, hey, no, I caught my professor, or, you know, or you just threw it out there, hey, yeah, I was rolling, they did this, I caught him with this, but thought it was kind of janky. Well, but you threw it out there that you did, right? Now, I don't know your professor. I've never been to your school. No harm, no foul. I'll never see him again. You know, maybe I'll visit your school someday, but I haven't yet. So like, he doesn't know me either. Now imagine if 90% of the world's jujitsu was in one town, right? And you said something, and now that's a little different, right?
Oh yeah, it's on the wire now. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a problem. So I think that's where like the whole like Creonte thing started, was little things like that would happen, and that wasn't cool. You created rifts, right? Like, I side with people that that I'm friends with. Your friends will back you up, and then you have a big rift in a team. Or, you know, there's a lot of teams that were created because of that caused like schools that fall apart. um but yeah, imagine that happening. You know, that would be crazy. Like, you never said you could beat him, or that you wanted to beat him. It just happened. But now it's now you got to step up, you know what I mean, like, or look like a wuss in front of your friends, which is, you know, again, it's all machismo and big headedness, I think.
of course, of course. And like you, so you had your dad, the MMA fighter. You have this
Mhm.
famous family full of MMA fighters. Like, did you feel like you had to jump into MMA?
So I did, I'll be honest with you. When I was 15, 16, I was doing very well in competitions, in jiu-jitsu competitions and grappling competitions. I felt I could take on anybody my size. And I was at the time training. There's a lot of MMA guys that were coming to my school to learn jiu-jitsu or to train with me. Um, and I would in turn train with them sometimes, you know, spar with gloves, you know, start on your feet, you know, do things like that to put a different perspective on their training, right? If they were to fight a grappler. And I had a lot of fun doing it. You know, I figured, hey, I could do this. I'm gonna do this. And like had in my mind, I'm gonna do it. I worked out, I got ready, I, you know, did everything I'm supposed to do. And then I had a, a student who's now one of my black belts. And he was kind of like a mentor to me. He was older than me, but he was kind of like a wise guy, somebody to look up to, you know, and very successful, cool headed. And he looks at me and he goes, "Why would you do it?" And I said, "Why not?" and he was like, "Well, you know," he's like, "Look at it this way." He's like, all your uncles, they all fought, they're all successful, they all finished their MMA career, and they all did what? They all opened a school, they all taught seminars, they're all living off of jiu-jitsu, not off of what they made in the ring. Well, no, but I want to. You want to what? Be locked in a cage with a guy whose only job is to beat your head in, to prove what you already know, that you're probably going to be okay against most amateur people you're going to fight. He's like, "Why would you do it?" Right. And it was one of those things that's kind of like, kind of hit, you know, kind of hit home. And I was like, but, you know, but I need to know. I need to know if I can do it.
Right, right.
And he's like, you know, he's like, the reality is, if you want to know, just visit an MMA school and spar with them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, you know, of course you're not going to go full force. You're not going to knock each other out like you would in a fight. He's like, but you'll know, you know what I mean? Like, if you're like, "Oh shit, this is too much for me," like, you know, and he's like, but the reality is, he's like, you should take the years that you have and invest in building a successful team, a successful school, you know, learning to do what most jiu-jitsu schools can't do, which is like good business, you know. Mind you, this was, you know, 15, 16 years ago, where a lot of jiu-jitsu schools were literally living, you know, month to month. There weren't any of the automated systems that there are now. And he's like, learn to do the business side of things, learn to be a successful school, and, you know, then you're set for life. And it was one of those things that's like, he's right. I had nothing to prove as far as like the Gracie name. You know, I felt very, like I said, that's a self-imposed pressure that I talked about earlier. I think my cousin Neiman said it best. He said, "You know, my family has proven what they came out here to prove. I'm doing this for myself," right? And for me, once that realization happened, it was like, if I can devote my time to getting ready to go fight MMA, to be successful, to then retire from that and then teach jiu-jitsu. If my end goal is to just teach jiu-jitsu, I could just become a much better jiu-jitsu instructor and technician now, so that I can ensure that success. You know, it was just like, why take the roundabout way, you know?
Right, right.
So no, I never fought in MMA. I did train for a long time. Some of it on purpose for MMA, some of it was not on purpose. You know, some of it was just people that want to fight MMA that came to train with me, or that I would visit their schools to get a different kind of training. But no, I never stepped up on the ring.
Definitely. So, I mean, you're still pretty young. I mean, you could get
I
one in.
am. I could, you know, I consider at times it's not something that, like, I don't wake up with a burning passion to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I spend a lot of time, you know, relearning jujitsu every day. I take notes. I'm very methodical in my teaching, in my training, in my class. Like, I have class plans. Like, I'm super devoted to that. And like, a lot of people find that like super boring and stuff, but I love like watching videos. I love breaking down footage. I love looking for patterns and trends and in jiu-jitsu, and then going and applying those things to my students and helping them grow. That I love to do. So like, I don't know that I have the passion for it now.
Right, right. And you said relearning jujitsu. Like, could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So, okay. So if we look at arm bars, right? So if you just look at a traditional judo armbar. In judo, they call it a jujigatami, right? So you look at a traditional armbar. The judokas have been doing them for 200 years, roughly. The Japanese jiu-jitsu, like 800 years. It's not a new thing, right? There is no such thing as a new armbar. But we see it all the time on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. This new armbar. Shut up. It's not a new armbar. What it is, what it can be, most of the time, what it can be is a new setup, a new entry to it, right? The other thing that it can be is it could be a polishing of a technique. And that's where the relearning comes in, right? So we have taken a martial art from Japan. In Japanese jiu-jitsu, it became judo. A lot of the ground elements were stripped from judo because they were more focused on the throws. That's what Jigoro kind of preferred. It went to Brazil, and that's where the focus on the ground came back up, right? And completely unrelated to that path, we have sambo in Russia with armbars, and that was from an exchange between the Japanese and the Russian. They had tourists. Some of it was government sponsored, some of it wasn't, but they basically traded on their throws and everything else, on their grappling styles, and that's how the armbar got to Russia. And now you look at it, let's say from 2000 on, jiu-jitsu has become a world sport, a world martial art, right? So we essentially have every corner of the planet looking at the same armbar mechanic that was developed, 800 years ago. Has it changed? Yes. 100% the armbar mechanic has changed. The armbar principle is still the same. The position is still the same. But we've looked at perfection, like we're at the point where we're fine-tuning this armbar to the nth degree, like how we bend our toes, to how we pull our heels, our knee positioning, at the angle, where are we most successful? Is it leaning to the legs? Is it leaning to the head? Is it straight back? Should we hug the arm? Should we hold the arm? Should we one hand in the arm? Should we hold the legs? We're now like at there's so many eyes in so many parts of the world constantly looking at the same, at its very core, same techniques, that we're having a very rapid level of polishing and perfection being achieved. And I don't want to fall behind. So, I study everything. So like I look at how armbar is being done different now than they were 5 years ago. Why is that different? Is there a difference in how armbars are done in gi versus no gi? And the answer is yes. There's absolutely differences there. Things like, here's something super simple, right? Seat belting from the back. Super common position, right? Nothing fancy, like it's basically back control 101. But the reality is that there is a very, very different approach to elbow placement in the seatbelt if you're in the gi versus no gi, right? And these are things that you only notice if you're looking for them. So, example, one of the main chokes from the back is the rear naked choke, of course. But in the gi, that's not true, right? It's not. I mean, if you look statistically, chokes from the back in the gi, the rear naked does not rank very high. It ranks somewhere along the lines of like a bow and arrow. Yeah. But what does that mean for us? It means that how you defend the back when somebody seatbelts you, gi versus no gi, is different, because the patterns of attack, the successful patterns of attack, are extremely, extremely different. So as a person attacking, you have to be conscientious of how they're defending, right? So let's say I do a seatbelt. Let's say we have the gi on. I do a seatbelt and my elbow is in front of your collarbone. So I have a very powerful seatbelt grip there. It's actually horrible for gi, because that elbow exposure prevents me from choking you. Because if you grab that elbow, I can't do any lapel chokes. you limit me to a rear naked.
Huh.
And a rear naked choke with the gi is very low percentage, especially if you know it's coming, right? So in gi, I want to do a seatbelt with my elbow behind your shoulder, pushing the bottom arm up further, because that also gets closer to the lapel, and it gives you better entry to lapel chokes. And you can't reach for the elbow. You can't protect yourself. In no gi, doing that doesn't benefit you because there's no collar to grab. You have further distance for the rear naked, but having the elbow in front, far benefits you now, because if they try to hold that elbow, you're just going to go rear naked choke them, So I spent a lot of time looking at that kind of stuff, like patterns and trends. I look at how the top people are doing things differently, and sometimes they're not doing anything different from one another. Sometimes it's strictly who got to their grips first, to their games first. And you can learn a lot from just looking at them.
Definitely. I mean, everybody watching this, you have to send Kroyler Gracie $100 for back system. None of this is free. All right.
they should send it to you. There you go.
We'll split it.
All right.
I was more your Uki right here, I'll say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, it's like ankle locks, like leg locks, right? So are they new? No. I mean, there's accounts, there's documented accounts of like Master Father versus my grandfather back in the 50s. It was like 10 students went head to head to see who would win because of this argument, right? So what have the Eddie Cummings, the John Donahers, the Gordon Ryans, the Gary Tonans of the world, the Craig Jones, what have they done for leg locks? They haven't created leg locks. No, they've looked at entries. They developed new entries to it. They developed better forms of control, right? And they developed a more precise form of breaking the legs. But they didn't create leg locks. They simply relearned it. They spent time, they studied it, they broke it down, and they rebuilt it.
Definitely revolutionized it when most of the world thought it was dirty. Like where did that mindset come from, that footlocking somebody's dirty?
So it's gonna sound horrible, but you got to keep in mind like the time period and the country, right? So Brazil is still about 20-25 years behind where America is now culturally. If you go back 70 years, we were even further back. Not as far as technology goes, as far as culture goes, So back then, my grandfather and his brother, Carlos, you had to pay to learn, right? It was a very like elitist sport. Any sport that you have to pay that kind of money, especially in Brazil, was unheard of at the time. Generally speaking, in Brazil, you wanted to do a sport, you just played with your friends. And if you were good enough, somebody would pick you up. But jiu-jitsu, you have to buy the gear, you have to pay for the classes, there's a set schedule. Like it was very formal. And there was a black belt. His name is Fada, Master Fada, Osvaldo Fada. And Fada taught for free. And he taught the poor. He taught basically the kids in the ghetto, in the slums, in the favelas, and he taught to them as a means for them to protect themselves as they would need it most, as a means for them to find a better focus for their energy and their things that are going on in their lives. And they eventually, this is the only part of the story I don't know, is how the challenge got started. Or not the challenge, but how the rivalry got started. My guess is somebody said something, and then shit talking ensued.
I go. It's on the wire.
Right. Like I said, 90% of jiu-jitsu is in that one city, and somebody basically from the Gracie side, probably coined the term zapatero, and it was meant to be a derogatory term, like a shoemaker. It was somebody who was poor, somebody who shined shoes, and since they like to do leg locks anyways, they're all, you know, shoe shiners, you know, and shoemakers. And then this went back and forth for a few years until a formal challenge was, you know, put forth. And that's where my grandfather took his top 10 students and they matched up top 10 student fathers. And I believe that the first time Fada took 7-3, I think Fada won 7-3. And I think the 7 that won were all leg locks.
Wow.
Because my grandfather did not teach them, or he didn't, it's not that he didn't teach them, he didn't emphasize them, because he looked at it as, in terms of self-defense, going for leg locks is a double negative. You're going from top to bottom, and if it fails, you're already in a worse position. So then there was a rematch years later where I think it was 6-4 my grandfather's favor, and that's because they took a heavier focus on leg locks to get ready for Fada's guys.
That's awesome. So, like, do you think the Gracie way, even today, is more self-defense rather than sports and get your points and all this?
I don't think so. Not anymore. Not anymore, to be totally honest with you. You know, I think there are still definitely certain branches of the family. I have, you know, like my cousins Hiro and Henner in California, extreme self-defense. You know what I mean? Like super, super heavy on it. Helson Gracie, super, super self-defense, you know. But then you look at guys like Kroyler Gracie, who teaches a lot of self-defense. But Kroyler is also a competitive force. And, you know, he built Gracie Omaita. And you look at all the guys that came from that, you know, Shanji Hiberu, you know, Salo Hiberu, Megaton. I mean, all of them, you know what I mean? Like it's like a huge competitive school. You look at guys like Kenzo, who is very heavy on the competitive side, but I'm 100% confident in Henzo's abilities to teach a self-defense class and be a very good one, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we've had this, I think we've been typecasted a little bit into that. And I think some of the Gracies have tried to overcorrect and, you know, have gone really hard on the, you know, we're competitive too, versus just self-defense oriented. But no, I think, I don't think as much anymore. I think in general, if you were to compare a, you know, random non-Gracie affiliated, non-Gracie trained school to a Gracie affiliated or Gracie trained school, sure, there's gonna be more self-defense on the Gracie side, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily only the Gracies in that, and that the Gracies only do that. You know what I mean? I think that's
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
exclusive.
And like, I definitely want to keep the self-defense aspect alive, because like right now everybody's just, here's how you get your points. Let's rack up the points, points.
Absolutely.
And like, and what I fear is we'll have world champions that can't be the guy at the bar. It can't beat somebody up in the parking lot.
I'll tell you a
Or
true story.
or
True story. You ready for this?
sure.
So I'm not gonna mention names. I had I have a friend who is a very big competitor, and he calls me and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "one of my teammates is getting ready for this big competition. Can he come up and train you?" He's like, "I told him you're like one of the best guys to go train with." I'm like, "Yeah man, whatever. You send him my way." So this guy comes in. He's a black belt, mind you, and I'm like, "All right, man, do you want to start on your feet? Do you want to do like technical training? Like, do you want to start in a specific position?" He's like, "Oh, let me start in your guard." Okay, sure. So we're just grappling. You know, we slap hands, bump fists, and we go. And then like 4 or 5 minutes goes by, and you know, he's not really quite passing my guard. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna go to half guard, kind of keep it playful. And I go to half, and then he like hugs my hips, and he just kind of holds on. And then like a minute goes by, and then he raises his hands, and he's like, "I won." Mind you, it was just him and I in the school. Like my school, there's nobody else there. It was like a private session. Like it was just, I'm like, part of me wants to be like, the hell? What just happened? So like, yeah, I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, "That's an advantage, and my matches are 5 minutes." I'm like, no, like, I didn't think we were going.
Okay.
You know, so I do think that there is a problem with I think we it's not that we're going to create world champions that can't fight a guy off in the bar. I think we have already done that. I think we have already gotten to that point. Now, there's a little asterisk next to that statement, right? Which is, if you're a world champion black belt and you fight some random drunk at the bar, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be fine. If you've been training for 5 years and a guy in a bar picks on you, you'll be fine.
Definitely.
You know, but I think there is a severe issue when we have purples and brown belts who don't know how to defend a headlock.
Oh, yeah.
And have a brand new big guy, strong, athletic, whatever, has some grappling experience, I don't know, and they headlock them from side mount because they don't know any better. And that purple and brown belt or higher, right, should definitely not struggle. Yeah, they should not struggle to get out of there. They most definitely should not tap to that. That should not exist. You know, I mean, like, that is so backwards from what jiu-jitsu is supposed to be. But I think we've gotten to the point where people are so heavily focused on competition that you are right, that they neglect simple things like how to defend a headlock, how to clinch, you know, how to, you know, take somebody down instead of just sitting to guard, you know, how to defend from strikes if you're in the bottom. I mean, like, fundamental stuff that really, if you're a purple belt or if you're a brown belt, it would take you like a month of training to learn and be, you know, fairly decent at it because you have so much previous experience. But people are just so hateful against it, you know.
Right. Do you think it's too much glory given to like a guy that wins IBJJF? Like we put these people on this pedestal and we put this medal on the pedestal that is the same $10 medal that you can get at the local tournament.
Absolutely. I 100% think so. Here's why, right? And again, I'm not taking credit from anybody. I mean, I think these guys are incredible athletes and they obviously know jiu-jitsu. I'm not discrediting any of them. But I do think that there is a little bit of a glorification there. Here's why, right? So have you competed? You said you're a black belt, right? Have you competed as a black belt?
Yes. I just did the past Pan Am tournament.
Cool. Have you ever fought like a local tournament, like a Naga or something small? You know what I mean, like a Fuji or something. Okay, great. So let's say you sign up for one of those, and that's your fun weekend. You know what I mean? Like, you're not. The small tournament for you may not mean much to win or lose. It's just something fun to do with your team.
Yeah.
So you sign up, right? And then you go out there, and your first match is going to be, I don't know, like Lucas Lepre, right? And let's say Lucas Lepre thought, hey man, this is going to be an easy weekend for me, and you know, wasn't really focused on a competition. It was kind of his day off kind of thing. And then you catch him, right? And you submit Lucas Lepre, but it's a local competition, so who cares, right? Now, let's say you go to the world tournament and you meet Lucas Lepre in the finals, and you catch him. Why is that win any different? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think like, again, I'm not taking anything away from them. It takes a high level or a super high level of dedication and a focus and discipline to compete at that level. I'm not taking anything away from them. I just know that sometimes the tournament matches, the matches that really would give you the credit to say, hey, you know, you're a world champion, right? Like the truly world-class level matches sometimes are the first match in a tournament and not the last.
Right.
So imagine this ADCC 2021 or 2022, right? They postponed it a year. So let's say the first match in the heavyweight class is Craig Jones, Gordon Ryan. first match, right? Those two are the two heavy favorites to win, right? So the two favorites are the first match. One of them has to lose, right? That was the tournament match. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That was it, right? Now imagine some nobody got a bye, and all of a sudden he's in the finals,
right,
with the winner of Greg Jones, Gordon Ryan, right? That guy that was nobody, who really didn't have any really tough matches, who didn't really have any high level matches. Maybe he got lucky with a bye and all these things, and he fights for second place, and he gets second place. But really, Craig Jones would beat him 10 times out of 10, or Gordon Ryan would beat him 10 times out of 10. And that was a tournament match early on, you know, and I think sometimes like we discredit that. We discredit that the big wins often happen earlier in the tournament versus later. The only way that you can guarantee that the top two guys meet at the finals is to put them on opposite sides of the bracket. And we don't do that in jiu-jitsu, you know, it's randomized. So I think there is that. And then I think there's also one of the worst trends in jiu-jitsu, which is the rule playing, the rule manipulation trend, has gotten so bad in the past 6 years, 7 years. It was worse before even. I watched the match. Actually, I made a few of my competitors watch the match. It was Meow versus Nicky Ryan in ADCC.
Oh my God!
Have you seen that match?
Yeah.
It was an incredible match, right? I mean, they were going at it, and then like the halfway mark hits to where points can be counted, you know. And Nicky Ryan did something that I was so upset about. Do you know what it was? Did
I
you
believe he
recall?
pulled guard, like, and he timed it against the clock. Like,
Yes. So basically, he was going for a takedown, and it was this scramble because Meow was kind of fighting him a little bit, and it looked like Meow was gonna pull guard and get a sweep. So Ryan actually disengaged with his upper body, raised his hands, and like let himself get swept before the timer went off. And then as soon as his butt hit, that's when points started. So he actually did not get penalized for pulling bottom.
right.
Oh my God, like what? You know, no, again, not taking anything away from Nicky. I mean, that's what it takes to win these tournaments these days, is the rule manipulation, you know. He did what he had to do. It was a brilliant strategy. But for me on the other side, like, that's not jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, you're manipulating the rules. And to be fair, Meow did it right back to him at the end.
Right.
Like, Meow pulled guard, gave up 2 points to sweep and get on top and win by an advantage, I think. So it was like, it was a back and forth manipulation. So back to your original question, do we glorify them? I think so, because I think some of the top guys, as dedicated as they are, as disciplined as they may be, as good as they are, just really the jiu-jitsu, just as tough as they may be, there is we don't give enough credit to the people that are winning smaller tournaments. Maybe they can't afford to travel. There's people in Brazil that I'm sure are very, very tough that just don't have the means to come out. I think there is a lot of credit given to people that are playing the rules and not necessarily trying to submit each other. They're fighting so hard for that one advantage to hold on, for that 1 second of time in the you know, to win by a referee's decision. That kind of stuff drives me nuts. I can't do it. And you know, Gordon is right in, you know, when he says that the only way that you guarantee to win is by submission, and that's true. But because of the current rule sets, you know, people are doing whatever they need to win, and sometimes that means, you know, trying to take each other down on the edge of the mat so that nobody scores a point. You know,
Get
like
2 points in
so,
school, you know.
just sometimes even just looking busy, like it's not even about an advantage anymore. It's just looking busier than your opponent, you know.
Right.
So
So like I really loved Halleck's rule set with Metamoris. It's just you won or you didn't.
Yeah,
That's it. So do
that's
you
it.
think everything should be submission only?
I would think you would get a better. I think it would better exemplify what jiu-jitsu is at its core if we said we're going to give you guys 30 minutes. If you don't submit each other, you both lose. Just not a draw.
Right.
You both
Just both of
lose.
you get out.
Yeah, right. Because like sometimes a draw is a win, right? If you're the underdog, if you just draw with somebody, that's a big win for you. But like I think you just say, hey, look, if you don't submit them in this time, you both lose. It's a loss.
Oh yeah. I want that. You got to text your uncles, man. We got to get on this.
Yeah, I think the problem is like nobody wants to compete for that
Right.
because I think as much as there are people that are hungry for that win, there's a lot of people just trying not to lose. I think it'd be very hard to tell people, hey, we're gonna put let's say we take the two top highest level guys out there right now and say, hey, you guys are gonna fight, and if you can't submit each other, you both lose. Well, they both may have perfect records. How about we settle on a draw instead? No, you both lose. Like it's a loss. That's tough pill to swallow.
Right, right. Like, oh man. So like you talked about relearning jujitsu. Like, who's Kroyler Gracie watching? Like who impresses you nowadays?
Oh, who impresses me?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So, in terms of sheer like people that were like that, I was like, wow. Sadly, Rafa Mendes has retired. I thought he was brilliant when he was competing. A huge innovator, modified, improved, redeveloped techniques. Just incredible. I watch a lot of, obviously Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, for no gi, those guys are the top and you have to watch them. I do watch, in the gi, to me, like one of the most underrated guys is Lucas Lepre. I think the Meows are really good. Keenan is somebody good to look for. Even if you don't like Keenan's style and Keenan's techniques, the dude is up with trends. So you can see how he deals with people trying new things on him, and you get an insight on what is he thinking in terms of solutions and problem solving. So, but man, like someone who truly impresses me, that's tough. Honestly, like the people that have impressed me the most are the people that are no longer competing, the Hajar Gracies, the Rafa Mendes, the
Bernardo
Marcelo
Ferreira.
Garcias. What?
The Bernardo Ferreras.
Right. Those guys, you don't see them anymore. I mean, like they don't exist anymore.
Right. Like
So
I appreciate the Bernardo, not for BJJ fanatics. It's like
no.
I totally like ripped this game off with the over underpass. I was like, and I tweaked it a little to make it my own, but like I love it. Like and watching people to just
So
get their game.
so you look at that over underpass, Bernardo's, like iconic, like, method of passing half guard, right? Or any guard really. Um, that's not new.
Right.
Right. What Bernardo has done is he's found new ways into it and he's perfected it. Right. He continues to perfect it. If you look at early Bernardo versus Bernardo right before he retired, his approach to passing with a double under, while in its core the same, it was a completely different beast, different patterns, different success levels, So he continued to relearn and redevelop a position that he is probably one of the best guys in the planet for. So I think that's like an example to live by.
Of course. Of course, Kroyler, I got fan questions. So I
Okay,
mean, are you ready?
absolutely.
And of course, I had it on the screen and now it's gone. Technology. But I mean, and I had a long list of them, like, because I gave it a hint that he's from a famous family. I didn't say who, so like
Gotcha.
they flooded me. So first question from my buddy Jordan: Um,
Okay.
I'd be interested in hearing about specific challenges they had in competition and what changes they made over time, day to day in the gym that they altered the way they perform in competition.
Okay. So I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3" and I walk around 245, 250. Um, and but I'm super weak. I'm like I'm my one of the black belts at my school. He says I'm as strong as a 6-year-old Girl Scout. I have like no power, but I've been this big forever. And competing. I mean, even when I was 14, 15 years old as a blue belt, like I was the same weight, same size. Like I, I'm fighting guys that are huge and much bigger and much stronger. Guys that are built to be 280, 290, super powerful. And what happens when you put a guy who is big and weak against a guy who's strong and big? I'm in the bottom the whole time, right? And I struggled early on with competitions, uh, always being in the bottom. Like I didn't have the power, the explosion, the anything to fight off these guys. And it, I decided to make it a weapon. So I spent years developing a bottom game, and I became so comfortable with being in the bottom that, to me, if they managed to take me down or they managed to sweep me or put me on my back, I was actually kind of relieved. And I think I made a strength out of a weakness, but it took a long time. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many hours I put in of very specific training where it's like you start in my close guard, you start in my half guard, start in butterfly, start in side mount, start in top mount, and like just having to fight your way back out of that.
Yeah.
Took me a long time. And I think that was because I just simply didn't have a means of stopping people from putting me on my back.
Right.
That was a challenge. I also had a you know tons of injuries training. I mean, from toes to ankles to collarbones. I mean, I've broken just about everything, and that always presents its own set of unique challenges. Coming back, rehabbing, relearning your game, learning what you can and can't do. But the biggest one was probably learning to fight from the bottom as a big guy, and being comfortable there. And I I kind of pride myself in having a little man game, even though I'm a big dude.
Of course, I figured the story was going to end with like your guard being a death trap. Like I thought when you said like guys were taking you down, it was like this is Kroyler Gracie. You take him down, he arm bars you and walks off the mat.
Well, that's I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, just because I struggled on the bottom, it wasn't one of those things where it's like I was losing every match I was on the bottom. It was just one of those, like, I mean, we've all had it, like you
Yeah,
have that
it's
moment of
just
panic where it's like,
yeah.
oh shit, this guy's big. He's kind of crushing you for a moment. Like you're like, oh no, like what happens? Getting rid of that little voice in your head, or developing more confidence in your ability to fight off the bottom, regardless of who's on top. I mean, that was a very big need for me. Um, and it took a long time to develop that, to the point where you are right, where I became so confident that by the time I was a purple belt, like I really was kind of looking or waiting for people to, put me on my back more than I wanted to be on top. Sometimes I wouldn't even care if my top mount was really good, my control, because who cares if they roll me over, like I
Right,
was
right.
I was I was comfortable. So
Definitely, definitely. So Charlene Dixon wants to know how do how do you support your female grapplers in a male dominated sport?
see that's that's a good question. I have a lot of girls that train in my school, a lot of women that train in my school. Basically, when it comes to technique development, it's the same as the guys. To me, you're on the mats, you're on to learn. I don't care who you are, old, young, men, women, does not matter. You're here to learn jiu-jitsu. We're going to teach you jiu-jitsu. As far as coaching style and supporting them, like to find competitions and matches, or, you know, if they have difficulties in training, that is a little different, right? Only in the sense of you could have this 90-pound, you know, 25-year-old woman who is an incredible technician, and then there's that one brute in class who's 350 pounds, and he's just going to lay on her and not do anything.
Right.
Like, that is very frustrating for her because she knows she's better. She
Yeah.
just can't perform, you know, like, where with a guy you can just, hey man, like, you know, like, you can't let him get there, like, tough it up, you know, like, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, with them it's a little different, and what I've come to do is anytime that there's a situation where I feel like there needs to be a different approach to take before I take that, whatever the other approach I'm thinking of, I take a step back and I go, you know what, can I fix it technically? Can I give them a solution that's jujitsu before I say, it's okay, they're bigger, or it's okay, it's a guy, or whatever. And I mean, like, I don't like to say those things to my students because jiu-jitsu is supposed to be empowering. And if there is a asterisk next to that statement where you can say, oh, it's because they're bigger than you, that's not very empowering to me. So I, you know, I try to be supportive. I try to understand the struggles. I talk to all my students, guys and girls. I make sure that they're always, you know, developing well and doing all that. But if I see that, you know, anybody really, man or woman, is needing a kick in the ass, I'll give them a kick in the ass. And if they're needing, you know, encouragement, I'll give them encouragement. I think for women, the most important thing is to know that they're safe in the school. Past that, as long as they know that they're safe and they trust you to keep them safe, you know, that they're safe with their teammates, with their training partners, if that has been met, past that, it's all jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter, you know.
I love it. I love it. Let me see. Charlie wants to know how do how do you always have the time in their life to be able to chase that dream, or did they have to sacrifice a full-time job and family time to achieve greatness?
And that's you know, I will tell you that you know, I made the choice of dedicating my time to my students and my family versus chasing it myself, you know, like we mentioned earlier on. um it is a choice.
Right.
It is 100% a choice. Can you be successful at the highest levels having a full-time job? Yes, it is possible. Nothing is impossible, but the odds are far greater in your favor if you can dedicate 100% of your time to it, right? Um, but I know that not everybody can do that, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. There's plenty of guys who can work 8 to 5 and still train and still be high level competitors and still do well. You know, like, that's not impossible. And we see it with guys in the UFC. We see it with guys in Bellator. Like, if those guys can do it, you can do it, you know. But yeah, I mean, being a competitor, at a high level competitor, you need to be selfish. And that does not, for anybody listening, that does not give you like a free pass to be a dick, you know. Like, I just want to throw that out there. It's what it is it gives, you have to be okay and accept the fact that you have to be selfish with your dreams and goals. You know, it means that when you're cutting weight for a fight or for a tournament, somebody calls you and says, hey, come over, let's have dinner. It's no. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's, biggest parties of the year. Maybe not this year, but usually, you know, like huge parties this time of the year. It's not doing that. It's going to bed early. It's getting up early. It's working out, stretching. You know, instead of going to the beach and hanging out with friends, is going to the gym and training. You know, instead of playing video games, if that's your thing, is just training and focus on bettering yourself. Like, you have to be selfish with your time, with your energy, with your focus. And Not everybody can do that. And those that can, not all of those can do it for a long time. That's why you see rising stars that peak for about 1 or 2 years and they fade out. It's very rare to see guys like Bruno Malfacine, who was champion of his weight class for 10 years. Like that's ridiculous. Guys like Kroyler Gracie, for over a decade, like top of his game, like that's unreal. Um, so can you do it? Yes. Yes, you can do it with a full-time job. Are the odds in your favor? Honestly, no, but it's not impossible. I think it makes for a better story if you are working at, 8 to 5 every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean to add to that, like I had a buddy of mine. He told me that every job he ever had to fit around jujitsu. Like if class
Yep.
started at 6, okay, I need to be off work by no later than 5, and the
Yep.
job cannot be this far from the gym. Like if he had to
Exactly.
give up, you know, $100,000 job to take the 70,000, that was the
Right.
sacrifice. You know, and
Yes. Yes.
a lot of people don't
That's
want
that's
to
a
do it. Yeah,
that's 100% true. Everybody talks a big game until they're presented with numbers like that, right?
definitely.
Everybody's like, "Oh, I want to be a world champion." Okay. It's like, okay, cool. I'll pay you 100,000 to do this, and you can't train. All those world champions are like, "Well, I don't know."
Mm. Or like,
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, I mean, that's a tough thing. I think you're right. It's sacrifice, it's discipline, it's being selfish with your time, energy, passion, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. Let me see. My buddy Shane wants to know what's your favorite Billy Ocean song?
Man, I don't even know who that is. I'm so
Me neither.
sorry.
It must be a new guy. Like I like all the new music. I hear it like 3 months later because like
Yeah,
there's
man.
nobody I want to listen to.
Yeah, that's with Apple Music, like unless somebody recommends something to me, it's always the same stuff I've been listening to forever.
Definitely. So like, let me see. Tate wants to know what's your thoughts on guard pulling.
Guard pulling. In what regards? Like if we're just talking generally, are we talking about for
I
competition?
mean, I guess it's the thought of guard pulling takes you away from the self defense aspect.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're looking just specifically like guard pulling as a means of fighting, right? If we're looking for competitive jujitsu, some would say that's a viable way of winning. I would rather see people try and take each other down because it sticks more to the core and the roots of jujitsu. But for competition, I mean, if it's a strategy that's viable for you and your game and your ability, why not? Um, as far as in general, I, generally speaking, I would rather like to see people learn to take each other down. Like, I think that's a missing skill. Like, oh, but I can pull guard and sweep. Okay, that's great. Or you can just take them down and be on top.
That works too.
You see what I'm saying? Like, um, and the other thing, I mean, like to me, the reason why people prefer to pull guard over take each other down is because it's easier to pull guard, right? There's no punishment to pulling guard, so like it's 0-0. Um, I'm in my game right away. To me, there should be a punishment consequence. So, example, if you and I grapple, right, and I try to take you down, and I shoot for the craziest double leg ever, and like I'm just going for a double leg, and I'm successful. I've burned energy. I've avoided your takedown defense. I avoided your submissions to get to where I'm at. So I'm awarded 2 points for achieving all those things, right?
Right.
The reason why guard pulling doesn't score is because originally points were only given when a position benefited your game, where you improved your position. Okay, that's the core. The original rules of jiu-jitsu were, if you improve your position, you score. That's why escaping mount doesn't give you points, because you're supposed to escape mount. You're in a shit position, right? So, however, guard game has become such a precise and effective form of fighting, that by pulling guard, it's 0-0, but you get to be in your game, right? Where the guy that likes to be on top has to fight to get there. You can simply accept to get there. You see what I'm saying? So one of the things that I would do as far as changing the rules that would make guard pulling more acceptable for me, more acceptable, quote unquote, right, would be to say, you know what, if you pull guard, you give up 2 points.
I like it.
Right? Because if you're so confident in your sweeping and submission game, right? If you're so confident,
yeah,
then who cares if you go down there and you have to fight out of there? You see what I'm saying?
And it builds your brand. Like, oh,
right.
Kroyler gives up 2 every time, and he just sweep, kills him.
Right.
Sweep, kills
him.
Right. And like I would say, it will also help to get jiu-jitsu on like a major network or a broader audience. Like if I'm watching a judo match, I know that this match is going to end spectacularly. Somebody's going to do some big Ippon Seoinage, roll over him, and it's going to be wow. Like jiu-jitsu, not so much. I mean, double leg, hold them, time's out, I win.
Yep.
You know, no, Americans don't want to watch that.
Yeah. I don't want to watch that. I will tell you, like, I watch. I'm like a little bit of a junkie when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So like when the big tournaments come around, you know, Pans, Worlds, Gi no Gi, you know, Abu Dhabi, ADCC, etc. Like I watch every match, and I take notes on every match from white to black, not just the black belts, from white to black. Sometimes it takes me weeks, and it's like eating cracked glass most of the time, because it's like you said, most of the matches are exactly that. It's a takedown and a hold, or a guard pull to nothing and hold, you know. So I think maybe about 10 years ago, I was really into judo, and I was watching a lot of judo. And then it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I revisited judo. So like I took like a 5-year break from like watching judo religiously, like I do jiu-jitsu. And like they instilled a non-engagement rule. They didn't call it stalling. They called it like a non-engagement rule. I think that's what it was. Where basically, like, if you get a grip and you don't, you know, start a throw with that grip, after a certain amount of time, I think it's like 7 seconds or 10 seconds, like you actually have to let go, or it's a point deduction. And that's so that people don't just grab on and hold, you know. So if you grab, you got to do something.
Exactly.
I would love to see that in jiu-jitsu. Like if you're gonna like a position, like 30 seconds, but if you don't move within 30 seconds, you lose a point. There's no like, hey, you got to move. No, it's done.
Yeah.
You know. And I think it would create a faster pace, and I think it would be less stalling, and I think people would want to see it. You know, it's not fun to watch jiu-jitsu right now, especially if you don't know any jiu-jitsu. How can you broadcast that stuff? How can you put that in the Olympics?
Definitely. Like we really need the Kroyler Gracie Invitational. Like I love your mind for rule sets. Like,
yeah, you know, maybe someday I'll host a tournament.
I'm on it. Kroyler, this has been a pleasure, man. Can you tell the people where we can find you?
So I'm on just about every social media, Facebook, Instagram. If you type in Kroyler, the only 2 things that'll pop up are me and my school. It doesn't matter if it's on Instagram, Google, Facebook, or Google. That's how you find me. Just type my name. I'm the only one on Google, so I'm pretty sure I'm the only one you're gonna find.
Definitely.
I also have a podcast. I'm on my podcast name is Just Jiu-Jitsu. It's me and one of my students, and we kind of go break down techniques and things like that on there as well.
Definitely. I must say I'm a big fan of the podcast. You had a quote that made me burst out laughing. You said that the purple belts are the teenagers of jiu-jitsu.
That's so true. That's true. I stand by that.
Like they don't want to come to warm-ups. They don't want to. I was like, oh man, that's so true.
They just want to have fun. They just want to do what they want to do.
They just want to come in and heel hook each other. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. That's when they know everything too.
They want to tell you how to do it.
That's right.
Kroyler, this has been a pleasure, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been super fun. You know, I will say, like, anytime I get a call to like do a podcast like this, you know, if I don't know the person, it's always like an iffy thing for me. I will tell you, I felt super cool and relaxed. It was like like I think we just kind of clicked right off the bat, and that made it nice and fun. I appreciate that.
Awesome, man. I mean, we're both students of the gi, you know. You're
Amen.
you're a little more your gi's more seasoned than mine, but
Oh, no, no.
it's what it is. Hey, thanks again, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Yep. See ya. Bye.